If you're a fan of post-apocalyptic media and you want to engage with something more than just the 20 seasons of The Walking Dead, then today's book just might be for you. Today I'll be covering The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Welcome to Spencer Reads Everything. I'm your host, Spencer Duncan, and today we're looking at a book that's actually been on my to-read list for quite a while, and it got pushed to the top because of two big things. First of all, it was number 13 on New York Times Best Books of the 21st Century so far that came out just a couple months ago, and I had a subscriber and good friend, Alex, who recommended that I cover this book, and I'm glad he did because I found this a fascinating read. Now, for the plot of this book, it's pretty straightforward. There's really not a lot that I can give you, aside from the fact that there's a father and a son. You don't quite know how old the son is, you don't know how old the father is for that matter, and you know that they live in some kind of post-apocalyptic world. You don't know what caused this to happen. You don't know what exactly all the consequences are. You do know that most animals and everything else have gone extinct. He comments on that several times. You do know that there are some other human beings, and a big part of the book is an ongoing discussion between the father and the son about who are the good guys and who are the bad guys. What makes good people, what makes bad people. The fact that all the animals have gone extinct means that there is a real crisis of food, which means they are constantly hungry, and every time they meet and interact with anybody, that seems to be a huge part of the interaction, is determining how they eat. And I'll tell you now, this is a bit of a spoiler, but a big part is that there are some people that are cannibals, and that seems to be one of the biggest concerns of these two. The book does not have a ton of dialogue. That's one of the hallmarks of not just this book, but actually Cormac McCarthy as a whole, to my understanding. He does not put a ton of dialogue in his books. And the little dialogue that there is tends to be pretty straightforward. There's not a lot of real reflection, and there's no going into people's heads for the most part. It is just based off what you get from the dialogue that you have to piece together exactly what people are thinking. And the whole point of the book is to not just consider the post-apocalyptic world and what exactly that would look like, but the real point of this book is a moment at existential contemplation. In our everyday lives, we have so much to distract us. And we can easily forget the fact that everyone someday will die. And so this book is an example where a post-apocalyptic world not only brings that to the forefront, but it makes it the theme of this book. And so the father, who is constantly fighting not just for his survival and his son's survival, but he's also constantly fighting to get his son to believe in the need to survive. Because this all goes back to the heart of why we as human beings and any living creature feel this drive not just to live, but to also propagate and to continue, which is why the father not only wants to protect himself, but also his son. So throughout the book, you're going to have a lot of opportunities to consider that. And you're also going to have opportunities to consider what makes someone good, what makes somebody bad. And that's something that they are always asking themselves. The son asks occasionally, are we the good guys? And the father will insist that they are. And sometimes the father will explain what makes good people and what makes bad people. But by and large, he just says the thing that makes them the good people is that they are carrying the fire. And there's no full understanding or explanation of exactly what that means, but that does become the watchword of the book, and you will see it used throughout. And that is going to be one of the recurring themes worth discussing. So who would I say this book is for? Well, obviously, it's going to have a certain appeal to people that are into post-apocalyptic books. However, I feel like there's a wide variety of post-apocalyptic literature that could draw people in, whether it's the Mad Max approach or the Walking Dead, where it includes this desire to engage with a ruptured world and a whole lot of fighting, a whole lot of bloodshed. There is some of that in here, but I actually think the main point in this book is to get people to sit and think about why they exist. And what is the point of existing if you take away all the things that we use to distract us? And if they're just distractions, then why do we exist? It becomes this psychological loop of trying to figure out what is the value of things. And I think that this book engages very well with that, although I'm not suggesting that it's some huge conversation that they're having. Like I said, what the son and father talk about, it tends to be pretty limited. This is something that you're going to have to extract from it. So who wouldn't I say this is for? Well, people that don't want to have that moment of contemplating existential dread, or I'd say it's not for people that don't want to engage with a book that has some pretty devastating stuff, some pretty graphic scenes, and it has some pretty challenging moments of choices which undermine the whole purpose of continuing to live and what it takes to continue to live. And I could see why some people just might not want to engage with that, but that is the heart of this book. Of course, I'm interested in what you guys have to say about this book. Please let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, turn on those notifications, and until next time, keep those pages turning.